we've been talking about how to find your voice, and today we're going to tackle that little nagging voice that we all have, sometimes louder than others, but basically it's a voice that says, I'm not good enough.
Fatima Doman, she's an executive coach and author of Coaching for Greatness. She's got 7 ways to stomp out the negative, and there's some fascinating evidence on this, how our negative thoughts can really hurt us, can't they?
Right. Dr. Mark Hyman writes about this a lot in his books, and he says, thoughts are things. They can please or paralyze your nervous system. As a matter of fact, when we have a negative thought, we release hormones. We change the hormones in our bodies. We deplete nutrients in our bodies. Inflammation goes up, among many other maladies.
So it's a physical change.
Yeah.
It's a physical change, yeah. As a matter of fact, research has shown that the chambers of your heart stiffen and contract when you're having negative emotions.
Wow.
Yeah.
On the opposite end of that spectrum, you have an inspiring example of a woman who channeled the positive attitude and the positive thoughts even during a difficult time.
I do. Her name is Lucy Detmer, and there's a picture of her up on the screen. She's won 26 national championships in senior tennis, but aside from that, about 2 years ago, Lucy lost her husband. And he was her sweetheart of 65 years. And she told me, I was at her house one day, and she says, Fatima, I felt like I could wither away and die after he passed away. And she said, and I knew that no one was going to lift me out of that except me. And so what she did, she had already been volunteering and teaching English to Spanish speakers, but what she did was she really upped her activity, her positive activity. And she started, she put an ad in the paper to be a nanny, and she was hired. She started teaching tennis lessons. She teaches tennis lessons at the age of 89. She got out for more walks with her dog, and she said, you know, you've just got to make it happen. You can't wait for life to, you know, to pull you up. You have to pull yourself up. So she's a person who can turn lemons into lemonade. As a matter of fact, that's a characteristic research shows. Centurions, the one thing that they have in common is that they are all able to pull themselves out of negative situations. They're all positive thinkers, and they have this ability to tap into resiliency. And resiliency is that hard to describe characteristic where people, rather than drowning in changing tides, they shift.
They go with the change.
They do.
Yeah.
They see the glass as half full instead of half empty. And that's very much a part of longevity and health.
Now, whether you want to live to be 100 or not, we all want to be able to have these positive thoughts here. And you say it actually takes practice, and one of your first tips is to choose each day to be positive every day, right? Right.
It's a decision. Being positive is a decision. And you have to make that decision also to do the next 6 steps that I've written about in my book. So yes.
That next step actually is to dispute faulty thinking. This can sometimes, I think, be easier said than done to get rid of the faulty thoughts.
Right. They're called automatic negative thoughts. And everyone has them. Just because a thought originates in your head does not mean it's true. So we need to ask ourselves, you know, what is the evidence, what are the facts that justify this negative thought? And if the facts and the evidence isn't there, then we need to dispute that thought. For example, you know, the woman who gets really stressed out and anxious every time her husband goes on a business trip. And if she were to look at the underlying feelings, you know, maybe it's something like her parents divorced when she was a small child, and her father met someone on a business trip. That's what brought it about. You know, so she examines those underlying feelings, and then she asks herself, does this necessarily mean that my husband's going to do the same thing? And the answer is no.
So you're pretty much saying think more with your head and not with your heart, which is, I think, hard for women sometimes to think logically and to step outside and think more with your mind than with your emotions.
That's right. Yes, so examine that faulty thinking. And when you discover it's faulty, say no to it. Put an end to it.
Okay, so we're getting rid of the faulty stuff, and we have to actually fill it with something. So you say you have to practice affirming self-talk, right?
That's right. So a friend of mine just the other day told me that she does this a lot when she exercises. She had a life-threatening illness a few years ago, and so her health, her physical health, is very important to her. And she told me, you know what, Fatima, I don't have a model perfect body, and I never will. She said, but I love my body. She goes, I accept it the way it is. exercise. She says, and so when she exercises, she says to herself, I'm a strong girl, I'm healthy, I love my healthy body. She says that inside her mind as she's hiking up hills, and it's very empowering for her.
This next tip maybe seems simple in context, but I think it's an aha moment. If you want to be positive, surround yourself with positive things.
That's right. Immerse yourself in positivity. And I think Lucy is an excellent example of that, because Lucy told me one time, she said, you know, Fatima, we have such a short time on this beautiful earth. She said, why do we waste time on things that are just mediocre? So she chooses only uplifting, positive movies to watch, or meaningful movies. She also, you know, only listens to edifying music. She surrounds herself with positive people, and she gets out in nature every day. She makes it a point to go on a hike every day. And research shows that people who spend time in nature, 20 minutes in nature can increase your ability to hold on to a thought, to remember better, recall goes up, and so your mind expands when you're in nature, and the research supports that.
You know, your next one might be a little bit difficult for some people, because it's to identify calming activities. How do you do that if you've got, you know, 3 young toddlers running around the house, or your life is hectic running from here to there? What do you do it that way?
There are a lot of things you can do, and the first one that comes to mind, of course, is exercise. Even just short, you know, 10-15 minutes can calm you down. Other things you can do, you can meditate, you can pray. And one that I really love is breathing exercises. And you probably noticed Apollo Anton Ono, you know, he does the yawning, okay? Well, there's a reason, I'm guessing, that he's doing that, because scientists have discovered that with deep breathing, you stimulate what's called the vagus nerve. It's a nerve that goes down the back of your throat into your lower abdomen. And when that nerve is stimulated, it's more calming than Valium.
Wow.
And it's natural.
I read he was doing that.
It's easily accessible.
Yeah, that's interesting.
Yeah.
We talked about surrounding yourself with positive thoughts. You say on the same note, if you're in a negative situation, leave, get out.
Yeah. Yeah, avoid negative situations whenever you can. For example, if you're, you know, socializing with some people and the conversation turns to maybe harmful gossip, you can just exit graciously, is what I like to say. You don't have to tell people what they're doing wrong and chastise or anything like that, but you can find a reason to just go somewhere else. And just by your example of not participating in that negative activity, you are helping others, I think, to learn something, but also you don't have to be in it. Another thing is, you know, you're watching a television show and maybe it takes a turn for the worse and it becomes very gory and stressful. We have the power to turn off the tube if we want. I've walked out of movies before that have taken an unexpected turn, and my time is too valuable to put myself through that.
One last tip you have, it says to embrace the inevitable situations. What are those?
Yeah, well, there are the rare occasions when you can't leave. And when that happens, we need to perhaps ask ourselves, what can I learn from this? How can I grow? And I think an even higher level of thinking is taking what we've learned from that negative situation and helping others with it as well.
Great advice, Fatima. Thank you so much. 7 steps to a more positive life. We've posted that information on the Studio 5 website. Great reminders for all of us.
And we'll be right back with more.